Hi, friends. I thought because it's such a nice day that I'd sit outside in my hammock and read you a story. And apparently, Moo Cow thought he'd join me. Not sure how well this is going to work. But we have 3 stories today. Flip you around. Moo Cow, I need you to move, please. Thank you. All right, our first story is How to Catch a Star. And Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast. And we have another chapter in The Boxcar Children. So we may be interrupted by Moo Cow, or another dog, or a bird, or some kids playing, but that's because it's such a nice night. How to Catch a Star, Words and Pictures by Oliver Jeffers. Oliver Jeffers is one of my favorite children's book authors. There's a boy and a star, which is kind of how I used to draw stars when I was a little boy, and a rocket ship. So let's find out what happens with this boy and his rocket ship. Once, there was a boy, and the boy loved stars very much. Every night the boy watched the stars from his window and wished he had one of his very own. He dreamed of how this star would be his friend. They would play hide and go seek and take long walks together. The boy decided he would try to catch one. He thought that getting up early in the morning would be best, because then the star would be tired from being up in the sky all night. The next day, he set out at sunrise. He waited and waited and ate lunch and waited, and after dinner he waited some more. Finally, just before the sun was about to go away, he saw a star. The boy tried to jump up and grab it, but he could not jump high enough. So, very carefully, he climbed to the top of the tallest tree he could find. But the star was still way out of reach. Can you reach the star, Moo Cow? He thought he might lasso the star with a life preserver from his father's boat. But it was much too heavy for him to carry. Look who's in the way of our book now. Moo Cow, you're in the way. We can't see the book, 'cause you want the loves. If only he could fly up in a spaceship and just grab the star. But the only spaceship he owned was made of paper, and it didn't fly well at all. Perhaps he could get a seagull to help him fly up into the sky to reach his star. But the only seagull he could find didn't want to help. Mine, 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 the boy worried he would never catch a star. Just then he noticed something floating in the water. It was the prettiest star he had ever seen. Just a baby star. It must have fallen from the sky. Do you think the star fell from the sky? Look, there's a star, and there's a star in the water. He tried to fish it out with his hands, but when the boy reached out to touch the star, it just rippled through his fingers. And there's that very helpful seagull down at the end of the pier. Moo Cow is making it very hard to turn pages. Now the boy was just sad. But in his heart, the wish wouldn't give up. Slowly, he began walking home. And that's when he saw it. Washed up on the bright golden sand. The boy had caught a star of his very own. The end. Next, pardon me, Moo Cow, we have a silly book called Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast. Words by Josh Funk and pictures by Brendan Kearney. I don't know what all those beans are about. Looks like a big jar of something. Wonder what that jar could be. What goes with pancakes and French toast that could be in a jar? Maybe we'll find out. Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast. Deep in the fridge, and behind the green peas, way past the tofu and left of the cheese, up in the corner and back by a roast, sat Lady Pancake beside Sir French Toast. The leftover friends were as close as could be until they heard news from their neighbor, Miss Brie. "The syrup is almost completely all gone. A single drop's left, just a drop," she went on. "The last drop is mine," Lady Pancake conversed. But French Toast replied, "Not if I get there first." Like that, he was off and the race had begun, with Pancake behind breaking into a run. I told you it was a silly book. Through broccoli forest, past orange juice fountain, they climbed to the top of Potato Mush Mountain. Pushing and shoving, they fought for the lead, Toast behind Pancake, who rolled at high speed. She screeched to a stop at the edge of the shelf, clutching a grapevine to steady herself. Toast didn't notice and couldn't quite stop, plummeting down into jam with a plop. He scraped himself off and yelled up, "You're a meanie!" as Pancake rappelled down a rope of linguine. She bragged, "I'm the best of all breakfast food treats," then hurdled a lime and skipped over 2 beets. "I am," thought Toast, but his chances looked bleak, so Toast took a shortcut down Sauerkraut Peak, skiing past spinach and artichoke dip, Toast vaulted high in the air with a flip. Nearing the edge, he tried one final jump, but stumbled and fell way below with a thump. Pancake made use of her seafaring skills and sailed across oceans of soup, causing spills. But Chilly Lagoon slathered Pancake in muck, and then at a fork in the road, she got stuck. Who knew refrigerators could be so exciting? "Don't go that way," yelled a chickpea to warn her, but Pancake sped on and got trapped in a corner. Caught behind dressings, one Russian, one ranch, she squeezed out and started a bean avalanche. Toast reemerged in the vegetable crisper, sneaking up swiftly, not making a whisper. Beans were now falling from such a great height, some kidney, some lima, some pinto, some white. These veggies look very cranky. Searching for safety from raining legumes, Toast turned to hide but was blasted by fumes of Brussels sprouts left from an old party platter. So quickly he climbed up the celery ladder. Beside him, a lettuce leaf parachute landed. Pancake flipped out. "It is mine," she demanded. Battered and soggy, exhausted and crumbling, too tired to push, they were limping and stumbling. There stood the bottle of syrup at last. But wait! It was empty! They stood quite aghast. Licking his lips with a sneer that was awful, out of the shadows crept Baron von Waffle. "I got here first while you boasted and bickered. Why was that syrup delicious?" he snickered. With one evil laugh, Waffle slipped out of sight, but the syrup was gone. No more reason to fight. Trudging back home beneath layers of grime, Toast said, "Perhaps we should not fight next time." "Agreed," replied Pancake. "As friends we should share. Hey, look, we can split up that butter right there." There's the butter. And look, they're sharing the butter. They're all the leftovers. Oh, wait a minute. What's this? Whoa. The end. And look, it's the whole refrigerator. There's a shopping list. They need syrup, milk, and flour. And they're the veggies and the orange juice and the linguine and the beans and the beets and the lime and the jam and the ranch and the syrup. Look at the mess they made going through trying to get to the syrup. And there are those cranky veggies. The end. All right, let's see. We were reading The Boxcar Children, and it's been a while. So I don't remember where we are. We are on Chapter X. Chapter X? What kind of chapter? Oh, that is a Roman numeral. And that X means 10. Chapter 10. And Chapter 10 is Henry and the Free-for-All. This is going to be hard. I have to hold the camera. Here we go. Ahem. Here, how about you look up at the sky while I read? All right. James Henry Alden was a very rich man. His big mills stood just between Greenfield and Silver City. Now, J.H. Alden liked boys. He liked to see them running and jumping and playing. So each year, with 3 other rich men, he gave a field day to the town of Silver City. And even the mills were closed on field day. Every year, the boys were in training for the races. And not only boys, but men also, thin and fat, and girls trained for field day. There were prizes for all kinds of races, running and swimming and jumping. But the best one was a foot race, called a free-for-all, because anyone could run in it. Mr. Alden gave a prize of $25 and a silver cup to the winner of the free-for-all. Sometimes a boy won the race, sometimes a girl. Once a fat man had won it. On field day, Henry was cutting the grass for Dr. Moore. Suddenly, the doctor stopped his car in the street and called to Henry. "Hop in," he said. "Today's field day, and I want you to see the races." Henry hopped in, and the doctor started the car. "I'm sorry I can't go," said Dr. Moore, "and I want to know all about it. I want you to tell me who wins each race." Soon Henry found himself sitting on the bleachers. By and by, a small boy climbed up the bleachers and sat beside him. Then a man called, "Free for all! Come and get ready!" "What is that?" asked Henry. "A free-for-all." "Don't you know?" asked the small boy. "Didn't you see the one last year?" "No," said Henry. "That was a funny one," the boy laughed. "There were 2 fat men in it and some girls and boys. That boy over there won it. You should have seen him. He ran so fast you could hardly see his legs at all." Henry looked at the winner of last year's race. He was smaller than Henry, but he was older. Suddenly, Henry stood up and quietly left the bleachers. He went to the room where the boys were getting ready for a race. "Do you want to run in the race?" a man asked him. "Yes, I do," replied Henry. The man gave him some track clothes to put on. "Where did you train?" he asked. I was never trained," said Henry. "These boys have been training all year," remarked the man. "Oh, I don't think I'll win," answered Henry. "But I like to run. It's lots of fun, you know." "So it is," said the man. "So it is." Henry could hardly wait for the race to begin. He loved to run. But at last the race was called. It was time to start. Henry was number 4. Now Henry began to think, "It's a long race," he said to himself. "I must go easy at first." The bell rang. Off went the runners down the track. In almost no time, Henry was far behind most of the other runners. But he did not seem to mind this. "It's fun to run anyway," he said again to himself, and he tried to see how easily he could run. All at once, he had another thought. "I've tried to see how easily I can run," he said to himself. "Now I'll try to see how fast I can run." Then all the people began to see how fast Henry could run. He ran faster and faster, and soon he passed the 2 girls ahead of him. Then he passed a fat man and a little boy. There's a picture of them running, and there's Henry, number 4. The people began to shout, "Number 4! Number 4!" Here was the kind of race they loved. "Faster, faster!" cried Henry to himself. "I can run faster than this." He could. He passed number 25 and number 6. Then he passed number 5 and number 10. Only one runner was ahead of Henry now. It was number 16. Then Henry began to think of winning the race. He knew how much the $25 prize would mean to Jessie and the rest of the children. "I'm going to win this race," he said to himself. "I must pass number 16. He ran still faster. He could see the line at the end of the race. "Number 4! Number 4!" shouted the people. "He is going to win!" When Henry was near number 16, he put his head down and ran as fast as he could. He passed number 16 and went across the line. He had won! The people shouted and shouted. Some men held Henry high up and carried him to Mr. Alden for the prize. Then a man asked, "What is your name, boy?" Henry did not know what to say. He did not want to tell his name, so he answered, "Henry James." Now this was Henry's name, but it was not all of his name. At once the big sign said, "Henry James, number 4, winner of the free-for-all."
"Here is the prize, Henry James," said Mr. Alden. "You can run well, my boy. I like to see you run." He gave Henry a silver cup and $25. Then he shook hands with him. Just then Dr. Moore came along and climbed up in the bleachers, but Henry did not see him. The doctor laughed to himself as Henry James shook hands with James Henry. At last Henry got away from the people and started back to Dr. Moore's. He had the $25 prize in his pocket. When Dr. Moore came home and found Henry cutting the grass, he laughed quietly to himself. "I just got home," said Henry. "I will tell you who won all the races." Dr. Moore did not tell Henry that he had been up in the bleachers. He let Henry tell him about the races. "And who won the free-for-all?" he asked. "I did," said Henry. "You did?" cried Dr. Moore. "Good for you. What are you going to do with the money?" "I'll give it to Jessie," answered Henry. "Good," said the doctor again. When Henry arrived at the boxcar with $25, he found dinner ready. Jessie had boiled the rest of the vegetables and put butter on top. The children began to eat, but, hungry as they were, they stopped when Henry told them about the race and showed them the silver cup. They were so excited they couldn't eat. "You won the race, Henry?" cried Jessie, delighted. "Oh, I'm so glad." "You can run fast, Henry," said Benny. "I'm glad you won the race, too." He looked at the silver cup. "I said my name was Henry James," said Henry. "That's right," said Jessie. "So it is. You didn't have to change it." "Are we rich now, Henry?" asked Benny. "No, not very," said Henry, laughing. "By the way, I bought something for supper." Jessie looked in the bag. There were some fat brown potatoes in it. "Oh, I know how to cook those," cried Jessie happily. "They will be good. You just wait." "I can't wait," said Henry. Then he went back to work. After dinner, Benny played around with the dog. "Benny," Jessie said suddenly as she hung the dish towels up to dry, "it's high time you learned to read." "No," said Benny. "No school now." Jessie laughed. "No," she said, "you can't go to school, but I can help you. I wish I had a book." "We could make a book," said Violet. "We have all the papers left from bundles." "So we could," replied Jessie. "But what could we use to make the words?" "We could use a burned stick out of the fire," said Violet. So Jessie put the end of a long stick into the fire and burned it black. Then she used the burned end to make words. "Won't Henry be glad when he finds Benny can read?" cried Violet. Now Benny did not want to learn to read, but he liked to watch the girls make the book. Jessie made the words "see me" in the book. She called Benny, but he could not tell "see" from "me." "Don't you see, Benny?" said Jessie. "This one has an S. It says see. This one has an M. It says me." But Benny did not see. "It is too hard for me." "I'll tell you, Jessie," said Violet at last. "Let's make C on one paper and me on the other. That's what they do in school. Then have them point to C." The girls did this. They called Benny, and Jessie showed him again very carefully the word said C. Then she put the two words down on the ground. "Now, Benny, point to C," said Jessie. Benny looked at the two words. He could not tell, but Watch barked and put his paw on C.
Do you know which word is C and which one is me? I do. Watch knows which word is C.
Now Watch did not know one word from the other, but Benny thought he did. Was he going to let a dog get ahead of him? Not Benny. He looked at the words and learned them almost at once. "Good old Watch," said Jessie. "It isn't hard at all," said Benny. "Is it, Watch?" Before supper, Benny could read, see me run. I can run. Can you run?" "Good boy," said Jessie. "Now I must get supper." The children started up the fire and washed the potatoes in the brook. Then Jessie put wet papers around them and put them in the fire under the hot stones. "Are you going to burn them up?" said Jessie. "Jessie?" asked Benny. "Oh, no, Benny," said Jessie. "You wait and see." When Henry came home, he found Jessie rolling the potatoes out of the fire. They were very black. "Oh, did you burn them up?" asked Henry. "No, indeed," said Jessie. "Come and see." She gave 3 black potatoes to each one. "They are very hot," said Violet. "Look out." "Open them," said Jessie, "and take out the potato with a spoon. Then put butter on top and some salt. I will get Benny's out." Well, how are they? Oh, cried Benny, they are delicious. What did I tell you? Said Jessie. Have some milk. Milk and potatoes make a very good supper, said Henry. I can read, remarked Benny. What? Said Henry. Yes, he can, said Violet. He learned this afternoon. Go and get your book, Benny. Benny liked to read now. It is not hard, he said. Watch can read too. Oh, can he? Laughed Henry. Let's see him. Watch is too tired now, said Benny. I will read to you. Benny read out of his new book. Good old Benny, said Henry. Come to bed now. You must be tired with all that work, and I am tired too. And that's the end of this chapter, chapter 10. Next is chapter 11, The Doctor Takes a Hand. I would show you the picture, but I think it would give it away. So
I'll put you back this way and back this way so I can pretend to see you. Hi. You ready to say goodbye? Okay. Get your hand out and wiggle your fingers to loosen them up a little bit. Now practice waving like this. Okay? Now put your fist out and stick out your pointer finger and your pinky finger and your thumb. And this means I love you. And now we can sing. Ready? I love you. Goodbye. I love you. Goodbye. I love you. I love you. I love you. Goodbye. Goodbye. I'll see you next time. Good night.